Hi, I'm Mrs. Simmons and I'm going to demonstrate aspects of the distillation lab. So you're going to light a match, and as you take the balloon off the flask, you're going to put the lit match into the mouth of the flask to see what happens. So we're going to do this. Okay, I have a coffee filter and I'm going to filter the fermentation mixture through this. I'm going to put this in the funnel. I'm going to cut it off a little bit. Alright, so now we're going to start to set up the filter apparatus. You can see how this is dripping more slowly because more of the gunk has gotten down. I'm going to stop now because there's really mostly gunk. I'll put a little bit more in, but I'm just going to throw the rest of this out. I'm going to clean this, and this is now going to be my receiving flask. Alright, so now I need to put the glass tubes in the rubber stoppers, and I'm also going to put a thermometer in the rubber stopper. Now, this is a procedure that you have to do very carefully because we're putting glass in fairly tight holes. You need a lubricant. You can use oil. You need oil for your soap lab if you bought that oil already, or any kind of household oil will work. Mineral oil, vegetable oil, corn oil. I'm using canola oil. Another thing that might work is corn syrup. Corn syrup also has lubricating abilities. So, alright, so I am going to lube the glass tube, put it in the oil, and then carefully insert it into the hole. There, it goes in nice and easily. And I don't need to insert it a lot, just enough so that it's solidly in there. The thermometer is much more difficult. The thermometer is much bigger compared to the hole. You're going to really have to get a lot of oil, and I would suggest taking the oil and making sure that there's oil in the hole. I'm going to use the medicine dropper to do that. I'm going to take some oil in the medicine dropper and put it right into the hole. We really want to make sure this hole is well lubed, and then carefully ease the thermometer through the hole until the bulb is just poking out. I'm done. There's my setup. Then I can take my rubber tubing and attach it to this end of the glass tube. I'm going to take the other end of the glass tubing, attach it to the glass tube, and then the glass tube can go into this hole of the second rubber stopper. You can lube it up a little, but it went in really nicely. It doesn't have to go in that far. Now there's another hole. This is a 2-hole rubber stopper, and we do want this hole a little bit uncovered. I'm just putting tape very loosely over it. We're going to be putting this over the flask where vapor is going to be condensing. We don't want the vapor to escape, but we also don't want a lot of pressure built up in the flask. Period. Okay, so I need a little bit of paper towel. I washed out, this was the flask that my fermentation mixture was in. I've washed it out, it's clean. This is my receiving flask. This is going to have the rubber stopper that doesn't have the thermometer. I'm going to put this in my 600 ml beaker, and then I'm going to put ice all around it. And the ice will, if you have crushed ice, it's much better, but the ice will help to hold the flask down into the beaker. It'd be nice to put some cold water also in the beaker because we want this flask to be cold. We're going to be distilling ethanol from the fermentation mixture. We're going to heat this up. I'm done. I've got enough distillate. See, at the end it just drips very, very slowly because by now the filter is all has got a lot of the sediment scumming it up. So that's done. I'm going to put this rubber stopper, and it'd be a good idea to wipe it off because it's got all the oil. Try and don't wipe off too much oil because you want to be able to get the thermometer out at the end. As long as the oil is not dripping into the fermentation mixture, you're fine. All right, so I'm going to heat this flask up. The vapors are going to enter the glass tubing, and then when they get to the second receiving flask, they will condense, and when I get 5 milliliters of distillate, I'm done. I decided I don't like such a long hose. I'm going to trim it so that it's just a nice arc from one to the other. So I'm just going to trim about 6 inches off, reattach it to my glass tubing very carefully. You may or may not need oil for that, and then into the rubber stopper and the stopper into the flask. There's my distillation setup. Alright, so I'm lucky I have a nice flat stove, so I am just going to turn the burner on to about 4, and I'm going to wait for this to heat up and gently boil, watching it all the while, and wait for the vapors to come over and condense in the receiving. Alright, well, since there's nothing in the flask, it tends to float up, so if you just kind of push it down, that would be good. Or even, I might get a piece of masking tape and tape it down, because we want the flask to be as cold as possible. Alright, so it's gently boiling, and you can see that the vapors are going up into the tube, and I'm monitoring the temperature. It's a little bit less than 90 degrees. So I'll be monitoring the temperature as it boils, and when it collects about 5 mLs, probably around 10 minutes, I'm done. I'm holding the receiving flask so that it's lower than the boiling mixture, because once it will collect the vapor better that way. Okay, so I'm just checking to see how much distillate I've collected so far. Yikes, what a mess. Oh look, that's about 5 ml, so I'm done.